Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. Welcome to a quick video on a game I was introduced to about a week ago called Stablemasters. This is a game, if you like Kachi Clash, you'll probably enjoy this. If you like Kachi Clash but you wish there was about 10 to 15% more thinking necessary, you'll really like this game. The website is great. I really enjoy a lot of the stuff that they have here, but let's get into the game itself and then I'll show you everything that they have. So, how to compete. Choose one Rikishi from each box on the Pick'ems page, follow your stable in the standings through the Basho, and climb your way up the leaderboard. So the first difference between Stablemasters and Kachi Clash is the way the long-term leaderboard works. As you can see here, this is an ELO rating. So Kachi Clash is total points over the course of the previous 6 Bashos. That means that sometimes you need to decide if you want to pick something riskier that might be better for that Basho, or if you want to pick a guy who's safer, say less of an injury risk, in order to protect your total points, since no one's going to make a perfect set of picks every single Basho for 6 Bashos. This one, the better you do in each Basho, the better your rating gets. It's more logical. I like the Kachi Clash style. I like having to make those decisions, but I'm willing to bet most people would prefer, if I just try to do my best every Basho, I should go higher up the leaderboard. That's what you get here. So let's get to the game. Let's get to the pick'ems. So picks are open. Start. Now I've already done my picks. They have these cool little cards for each guy. I will show you those on a bigger page. We'll get to those. But here are the brackets. So if you've played Kachi Clash, you should remember that the brackets go Maegashira 1 to 5, 6 through 10, and then 11 plus. For Maegashira, right? If you've played other games, you may have seen ones that go 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12, and then 13 plus. So it's 5 per and 4 per, but they're balanced. This game does it a little bit differently. Here you've got 1 to 4, which makes sense in that that's usually the joy, like that top 16 of guys. The rank 5 usually doesn't end up as part of the joy unless there's injuries. So having this group set aside makes sense. And it makes sense in the other games where they go 1 through 4. But in this case, they go to 5 through 10. They actually make that a bigger bracket. And then they go with 11 plus, like Kachi Clash. And then you get one division that's all Maegashira. This is the main thing I like about this game. If you have one of those brackets where you're like, but there's 2 guys who are so good and I can't pick between them, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can pick them both. Now, if there's 2 brackets where there's 2 guys that you like, well, now you're going to have to make a decision. But if there's that one guy that you want to pick, but he just isn't on the level of the clearly best pick, now you've got that opening. On the other side of it, which is to say on the top side of it, you've got Yokozuna, Ozeki, and Sekiwake. Now, this is cool. I think that aesthetically, this is kind of neat that they combine the Sekiwake with the top guys, because hopefully that's where they'll get someday, but also keep the lower Senyaku together. But it doesn't effectively make that much of a difference, because you're not trying to decide if the Yokozuna or Ozeki are better than one of the Sekiwake. So let's say Kirabayama last time, you're like, you know what? I think he's going to do better than the Terunofuji. Well, he was still a Sekiwake, so you should just pick Terunofuji and then Kirabayama as your Sekiwake pick in the second bracket. This only really makes a difference if you think there's a Sekiwake who's going to do better than the Yokozuna and all the Ozeki, and also another Sekiwake or a Komusubi who's going to do better than all the Yokozuna or the Ozeki. And that's really hard to find. That's really hard to find unless like Terunofuji is out and you think Takakeisho is completely broken, and Kirishima, I think he'd have to be injured because I think we're expecting him to do pretty well from here on out. So you're almost always going to take a Yokozuna or an Ozeki in the top bracket. But I think it's kind of neat that they have that second group, that the Sekiwake as part of it. So anyway, for the Maegashira, the all Maegashira pick, that's how I was able to add Nishiki Fuji to my team. I think he's going to do well. I think Takayasu is the clear superior choice as long as he stays healthy, but Nishiki Fuji should do a good job. So I'm glad that I got to pick him. And now I have random pink lines at the top of the screen. Boom. Okay, that's the pick'em game. It's pretty straightforward. Up in the top right, there's this radial menu. This is cool. Like this just, if you have gotten into Fantasy Sumo, but you've avoided a lot of games because it's like the websites look kind of jank and you're not sure about the security, this one is solid. It's well made. It's got cool stuff. It's much more secure. So let's look around. Top is account. I mean, I'm not showing you my account. Get out of here. The cards are cool. So here is a bigger version of the card you saw on the other screen. There's cards for everybody. This is just Makuuchi, but there's cards for all those guys. They've got the pictures. These are the pictures that you see on the main Sumo website. And then if you flip them over, there's information. Now, that main Sumo site, if you've never been there, it's sumo.or.jp. That's where we go to look for the Banzuke, for example, when it's first released. So like here. So this is, well, actually, I'll back up a page. So this is the Banzuke, right? And if we click on a guy, we'll click on Terunofuji, we've got a bunch of basic information for him. Well, most of that information is here on the back of the card. You've got his rank, his stable, his size, country, birthday, age. But on this other tab, you have his record. And it shows you his last year of activity. He's got 30 wins, 10 losses, and he was absent for 50 matches, you know, because he was out for a couple of bashos. And you can click back and see how he was in each tournament. So he was 14-1 in May. Before that, he was out, and I double-clicked, but March he was out, January he was out, November he was out, in September, 5-5 before he had to drop out, 11-4 in July. Now, there is what looks to be a bug. Kirishima is shown as having no fights in May. I assume it's because his name changed. If you look at the guys who come up from Juryo, they show as having absences as well, or mostly absences. Like Bushozan, Shonen no Umi, and Ganoyama each show one win because they each had one fight in Makuuchi. So they had 14 absences relative to Makuuchi. So if you look at their records and that's what you see, that's why. Kirishima, I assume this isn't intended, but there it is. Everything else seems to be working though. And these cards are just a really, really, really cool addition. I think this is super neat. It is completely not necessary, and yet we get so little in the way of cool visual stuff in these Sumo game websites that I think it's awesome that it's here. Back to the radial menu, the pick'ems, that's where we just were. The standings. So there's 94 stables already made for this basho. There were only 60 in May. Kachi Clash has over 600 players. So if you like a Kachi Clash type of game and it's just like there's so many people, how am I ever going to win? Come play this one. There's less competition, at least for now. Moving along, user rank. So this one's kind of cool. So this is, obviously we haven't had July yet. So they've got these little trend lines that show how everybody did from March into May. And not everybody has a line because not everybody is on this list. What it has is, if you scroll down, the top 42 guys, which is top 42 people. I don't want to say guys, but that's very Sumo, right? You just got the top 42 and a list for each basho. And if they were in both of them, they're in the top 42 for both. You see how they did from one to the next. So that's cool. And then the last part of this is the trends. And this is the trends for the wrestlers. Now, this is kind of a mess of lines, right? This is how everybody did from one basho to the next. If you hover over a guy like Miyogiryu, his lines light up a little bit brighter so you can see how he's been doing from tournament to tournament to tournament. Now, if you have trouble picking guys out in this kind of catastrophic mess, that's okay. If you're only interested in, man, I know who I want for the Yokozuna, I know who I want for the higher ranks, but I don't really know how the guys in the middle ranks have been doing. You can turn off the trends and then just turn on the one group, and it'll show you only the trend lines for those guys. They're kind of all over the place. You do have to pay attention a little bit to figure out whose lines are whose. It's a lot easier to see if this is something you're interested in. Personally, if I wanted to see how guys had done over the course of several bashos, I would just go to their cards and click through. I think that's going to be easier to see. But if you just want to see from the last basho to this one, then, you know, these lines over here where you've got, you just need to look at that. Okay, now you can see really quickly who's gone up, who's coming down, who might be overranked, who might be underranked. You know, that might be worth what this is good for. So yeah, I think this is a neat little visual statistical effect that you can check out. It's the kind of thing you're not really going to find anywhere else. So it's something else to enjoy about the site. And finally, like the title promised, I have Guess the Banzuke statistics. So this is a graph of Guess the Banzuke entries over time. Well, 175 is how many we had in this past Basho, which is a record. It's never gotten that high before. Now, I know that I said that we should get to 200. I didn't really think we would this time, but I want to keep us on that upward path. I want to keep the momentum going. Will we get there by the end of the year? I mean, there's only 2 Bashos left, so it's possible. I'm not holding out my hopes too much, but let's keep the number going up. We got 175 this time. Let's get closer to 200 every time until we actually get there, all right? So that's it for this video on Stablemasters and Guess the Banzuke statistics. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. I hope you'll get into this. If you need any more suggestions for fantasy games to play, jump in the comments. Let me know. I'll make some suggestions. Other than that, have a great day, and I will see you soon.